All right. So the big dog on the street right now is TikTok shops. Whoo, whoo, whoo. Are they blowing up? Got some crazy numbers. Chris Schaefer is here with me, and he's going to share some crazy numbers from this last Q4. And here's the deal, though. As much as TikTok shops are crushing, and that's great for TikTok shops owners, which I'm not one of them at the current moment, but possibly could be. But can we use that information to help us with product research and use that over on Etsy? That's what I would like to look at. And I want to look at the numbers here. Like, okay, Etsy versus TikTok shops. Like, where should I play? Let's just look at the numbers though. And then you can decide. But I want you to look at it through the lens of, okay, this might be an opportunity for maybe starting a TikTok shop, or you might just take that and go, I want to bring that over to Etsy. And maybe then I can get something that isn't yet currently there, but it's been proven over here. So Chris, what kind of numbers we got? Let's start with that first. Why don't you just blow me away with some numbers that you kind of shared with me the other day?
So Scott, you and I have been talking a lot of Q4, and this is just Black Friday. So this is not all of Q4. This is not even Cyber Monday, which is, I don't know, the tech day of the year, right? Where people go to buy stuff online versus queuing up at 3 a.m. outside of Best Buy to buy their $5 flat screen. But the numbers just from Black Friday alone on TikTok shops was $100 million in the US, right? $100 million ran through the app. And one question that I know we're going to get because we're talking about TikTok shops is, why are you talking about TikTok shops? Aren't they going away in like a month? Probably not, right? Not only are there all kinds of legal challenges, there's a lot of problems with that. The incoming administration has not made it clear, but has said that they think that's probably not in the best interest. So TikTok shops is more than likely here to stay, at least for the medium term, right? What'll happen in the next 5 years, we don't know, but it's also not going away in the next 2 or 3 months. But Scott, even if it does, even if it disappeared, I think it's on January 21st, even if it disappeared from the US, is it still worth taking a look at to see what's selling? And the answer is yes. Now,
Absolutely.
TikTok shops operates a little bit differently from other marketplaces like Amazon or Etsy. And they do rely a little bit more on the live selling. And I'm curious if this article specifically had the live selling component of it, but I think they said somewhere between 25 and 30% of the revenue came from live streams on TikTok. So 25 to $30 million in a single day on live selling. And
That's
one
crazy.
of those people, Canvas Beauty, did $1 million in sales in 2 hours, right? Using live selling. And the bigger people, the people who did the best on TikTok were the larger brands. But the question is, since it's working that well on Black Friday, and we've had a lot of people saying, hey, it's working well for me, is there a way to dive in and take some of the things that are working to say, if this is a trend, is this something that we can take advantage of? And before we dive in and look at some of the ways to be able to do that, what are your thoughts on using something like TikTok as a jumping off point for other platforms, whether it's Amazon or Etsy? Is that a valid thing, or is TikTok kind of its own world, like a Temu or a Shein?
Well, yeah, I do think it's its own universe, right? It's its own, platform, just like all of the others. But I think if there's people buying a product and the proof of concept is there, it doesn't matter if it's off TikTok or if it's off of Shopify, it doesn't matter where it is. People are going to buy certain things, doesn't matter what platform. Now, is it going to be more, I guess, popular on a platform like TikTok? Maybe, but it just depends on the product. What I'm looking for is proof of concept, not necessarily that it's sold on TikTok, it's sold on Amazon, it's sold on Etsy. Doesn't really matter to me. I just want to know this thing is resonating with people. People love this new pickle shirt, which, by the way, there was pickle jar shirt that sold like crazy. And I think it was on a TikTok shop, but then people were taking that and they were putting it up on Etsy and they were selling it on Etsy, and they were selling it not as good as TikTok, but still pretty good. So, so I think you can learn from a platform where there's people buying, period. And that's where I would like to explore, right? And use that as a research tool in a sense, even if I might not sell on that platform ever.
And I think, especially if you're selling somewhere like Etsy, it's important to understand that, yes, there is a lot of random things on TikTok. So if you are dealing with a specific product type, it will take a little bit of digging to try and figure out exactly what's working and what's not. But the thing that's interesting about TikTok, and I don't think I've ever said TikTok back to back as many times in my life as we have in the last 3 minutes. But one thing that's interesting about their approach is they're a lot more open than most other platforms in terms of the way that they share data. And so you look at something like Etsy, we have Everbee, right? There's a lot of things that you can get through the Etsy API, but they don't share sales numbers directly. And TikTok doesn't exactly do that either, but they give TikTok affiliates, right? The creators who are promoting products, a really good idea. And because all of these different places know how much something is selling for on TikTok, and they know what the affiliate volume is, and they know how many sales are coming through, you can backwards engineer very accurate sales numbers to have a really good idea of how well something is selling. And if you are a creator on TikTok, you can get into the affiliate dashboard there. You want to promote something and see everything in your space that's doing really well. And if you're looking to sell things on TikTok Shop, you can get in as long as you have the mobile app and look and see a lot of the things that are doing well in your niche. But if you're on desktop, like you and I are, Scott, right now, TikTok actually recently, at least for me, disabled Shop on desktop. And so you can't get in and do all of the filtering and stuff right there. And that wouldn't tell you the numbers anyway, but there's a handful of tools that are out there that are similar to your Everbees for Etsy or your Jungle Scouts for Amazon that have started pulling all of this data in. And they don't promise to give you the exact numbers. And they're trying to balance between creators and businesses. So we get some really interesting things. And the first one, and this is the one that I've been playing with for the last few weeks, is called Fastmoss, right? No affiliation. If you want to check them out, you can get a 7-day free trial. That's what we're working with today. But they have a couple different things. I'm going to share this over with you, Scott. And are you able to see that? Now I'm going to bring this down.
Yep.
Just a little bit.
Yep. Perfect. Great.
And we're going to have to do a little bit of scrolling around because this is made for a bigger screen.
Yep.
But there's a couple interesting things that I wanted to point out. First, they bring you into your dashboard when you first come in, and not very helpful, at least when you first jump in, because they're looking just at overall volume. Sure. But they have a few different things along the side. And I want you to kind of take a guess at what all of these different things mean, Scott. So if this is a product or sales analysis tool, what do you think live means?
They're probably going to show you sales volumes or sales that have come through on a live.
Anything that's happening live. So what is being searched for with lives? What are the top live sold products? Nice. Who are the top live creators, right? So I said a minute ago, they're trying to balance between the creators and the people who are doing the actual creation of the product. So the TikTok makers and the people who are making the products. So we get to see a little bit of both here. And if we find a good product idea that we can put in our Etsy shop, then we can come back over here to top live creators who will show us the people doing the most volume and say, that's Simply Mandy's doing really well. Or you can come in here and filter by home furniture, right? Whatever your niche is, and see the top creators on TikTok for that, reach out to them directly and have them start promoting your products, which is cool. A really interesting way to tie these two things back together. But I think the place that most people are going to be interested in is this product tab right here, which is exactly what it sounds like, product searches. And they have a few pre-built filters here. So they have their generic product search, which lets us put anything in. They have top selling, which will be top selling. And then we can add in date filters. So top selling this week, this month, this year, newly listed. So anything new that's popped up. For our use case here, probably not going to be very useful, but if we're more on the content creation side, might be interesting. Fulfilled by TikTok, and then most promoted and most video product rank. So the two that I would probably start with here are just the generic product search or that most promoted. What is the reason that everybody is promoting these things? But if we're looking really for that first idea, we probably want to come in and just do a product search. And this, like any other search engine, we just type in whatever we want. So, Scott, what is on your mind today in terms of a niche? Gardening? All right. Well, I happen to already have that in here. And what we are going to find, like I said, there's a handful of things that, because people used hashtags or whatever, might not be directly applicable to everybody in the niche. But what we're seeing is, okay, this is a flashlight. They added garden in the keyword, so that's going to show up. Outdoor string lights. Interesting, right? Sprout stems and shoots. Okay, now we're at some real things. It's a cutting and propagation station, something we want to keep an eye out on, right? Collapsible beach cart. right? Why would this be something people use for gardening? Scott, have you ever used a beach cart?
I have, and you can use that for you dragging around your equipment while you're doing the garden.
Yep. My mom would have this filled with mulch and all of those kinds of things, right? Her little trowel and her extra set of gloves and her knee pad and all that kind of stuff. You throw that right in there. You can walk around a few acres of land without a big problem. We're not seeing a ton of things that might necessarily apply directly to somebody with an Etsy shop.
What if we put in garden shirt or garden apron or something like that?
Or gardening potentially is another good way to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take a look. Assuming Chris can spell.
Or even
water bottles,
like garden gift. See if that might give us something. Okay.
There's a different propagation station, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're seeing a lot of things start to pop up. They're not all going to be relevant to us, but what we do want to do is come through here. And so what we might want to do, Scott, is, assuming it will let me, mouse is going crazy on me, just go into a subcategory here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if they have any garden blankets.
Oh, okay. Okay. Personalized birth. Yep. There you go. There you go. And we've seen that on Etsy before. So that's interesting.
Yeah. And so if you have a product idea in mind, in terms of a product style plus the niche that you have, this is a really good way to do this. Now, what we're looking at right now, Scott, are just the ideas. Mm-hmm. And by default, that's fine and dandy. But what we really want to know is how well are these selling?
Yeah.
Right. And are they selling? I don't know if it will show me here unless I expand this out.
Yeah, you could see it there.
Well, it only let me go over to
I see.
A certain spot. So you see this total units sold?
Yep.
Right. So we can sort by total units sold. And it will give us, just like something like Everbee,
sure,
how many of each of these were sold and what the projected revenue is.
Got it.
The other thing that's interesting here is, and again, because this is designed for a giant screen here, give me a second. They will also give us, you see this column here?
Yeah.
Where it says commission rate?
Yeah.
So you and I have talked in the past about how affiliates work with TikTok and how you will see and you can set, if you have your shop on TikTok, your own commission rate. So it will actually tell us of the best-selling products that are selling on TikTok, how much of their margin they're giving away in terms of that commission, which is useful for two reasons. First, we have a much better idea of what they're making, right? We can go run it through a fee calculator and look at the different fees that TikTok would apply to that. But if they have that commission rate set, then we also know to get people to promote it on TikTok shops, if that's something that we want to do, that's probably where we want to start, as long as we can make that margin work. So if we get back to something that's not necessarily as specific as what we were looking at, we can see, right, this industrial endoscope. Ooh, that's a fun one. Not sure what that has to do with gardening, but we'll go with it. 12% commission rate, right? So if we want to have TikTok affiliates promote our industrial endoscope, then we have a benchmark to understand what's working and what's not. I think
that's great. Yeah.
This is a really interesting way to start to see what's working outside of Etsy. Obviously, we still want to do the sales validation on Amazon, or we still want to do the sales validation on Etsy with Jungle Scout or Everbee, respectively. But this is a really interesting way to get additional product ideas and to see what's hot and what's trending right now. Because yes, we can look at that all time, or we can come in and search by trending, or we can search by commission rate, right? We get all of these different filters that we're able to see. We can search just by top sellers, just by newly listed, and start to layer some of these things on to see what's happening in the rest of the world. Yes, if it's selling on Etsy or Amazon as well, then obviously we want to add. But if we think about that garden blanket that we were just looking at, assuming it hadn't just sold one on TikTok shops,
right.
Even if we don't see that on Etsy right now, we know that the niche gardening exists on Etsy. And if we have a gardening shop, that's something we're going to want to pay attention to. And the question becomes, why are they buying that? Right? What is the thing that they are buying? What is the experience that they're looking for? What makes this design stand out? And even if we don't see anything similar on our other platform, be it our own website, Amazon, Etsy, doesn't mean that we can't start to take some of those lessons, especially if it's selling very well. And so a tool like this gives us a little bit of insight. And even if we're not using TikTok Shops, if you don't have access to this through the creator backend, we're taking a look at just to see what's working in your niche.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I'm sure that it will also evolve because there's a lot of attention going to TikTok and TikTok shops. So, am I going to open up a TikTok shop right now? No, but I may use it for the research, right? And to basically try to find maybe, like you said, some trending things that are happening within the niche. And I use trending lightly because, we don't chase trends. But if it's a trend where it's a certain color, a certain fabric, certain, if you're doing jewelry, a certain type of jewelry, like, yes, you want to pay attention to that stuff. And that's where we can probably kind of lean in here using TikTok and TikTok shops, that is, for some research. But with that being said, it definitely is an interesting model for if you wanted to take your things on Etsy and bring them over to TikTok and create a TikTok shop. And then you can reach out and doing the research that you did, that someone that might be maybe a pet groomer and they have a huge following and they've promoted other products. You may reach out to them because you sell pet products, right? And then you can see that because they converted a whole bunch of sales for someone else, right? And you're like, oh, cool, they'll promote stuff. And then you reach out to them. So I think it's really cool that they built that in, because if you go to TikTok, I'm sure you can run ads, but you can also just reach out to influencers, and then the influencers are going to they're going to get a commission off of the sale. So for them, they want to promote it. So I think it's really, really powerful. And I definitely think it's something worth looking into. All right, Chris, that was cool.
So two more minutes of clicking around, Scott, and I found something that's interesting here, right? And you'll see this anytime you dig into a product somewhere like Fastmo. Now, this is something that would appeal more to the Etsy peeps or the print-on-demand peeps, right? You can probably find a version of this pillow somewhere, or if you're a handmade person, you could make one. This was, I think, number 4 in baby and maternity for the last 7 days, right? Wow. And in 4 days, they've sold 1,255 units. They've sold 43,000 overall, and they've made $1.8 million in gross revenue through TikTok shops. If you're in the pregnancy space, do you think this is something you should be paying attention to? Right? They're doing this, and yes, they have the TikTok affiliates, they have all of those kinds of things, but this product idea is really what we're looking for. And to do that, all I did, Scott, was I came into most promoted and then just filtered by a specific niche. So we can come in, let's just say home supplies, right, for a minute. And we can see all of these different things. All right, so if we are doing essential oils, do you think maybe something like this we should be paying attention to, right? They've sold 374,000 units.
Jeez.
And they're number 3 in the last 7 days. They're number 65 overall in all of TikTok shops in the US for that same time period.
Wow.
And they've done $3.6 million in revenue. What's going on here? Is it just the scent itself? Is that something that we can do? Is it the branding? What is the other things that they're doing? So if we're in the fragrance space or the essential oil space, this is something that would be definitely sticking out to me. And so just doing a little bit of digging here beyond just typing in the first thing that comes to mind, start to find some real winners.
I think the other thing that's interesting here, Chris, looking at this screen, is affiliates. There's 7,800 affiliates that are promoting that. So, and I believe that's what that number is there, right? 7.8 affiliates, right? So that many people, okay? Those people are promoting that. So that means that there's influencers out there or TikTokers that are talking about a scented oil, right? And they happen to like this. So here's the deal. You know that there's a lot of TikTokers that want to talk about this. So there's a lot of potential there for you to just do an outreach and basically offer an affiliate commission for them to promote for you. So I think that's a huge thing. And I'm glad that you brought this up because, right there alone, I mean, that gives you a crazy amount of intel, whether you want to take this and sell it on on Etsy, or if you want to go the other way and go, oh, there's an opportunity over on TikTok shops to basically take my brand and also leverage the TikTok shops platform.
Absolutely. And I think it's underutilized right now because everybody just assumes that it's a vacuum. But obviously, if there's demand there, there's demand other places. And the question becomes, if we can find something in our niche, how do we then apply that to our marketplace? Is it something that's just a cheap knockoff, right? If we go into jewelry, accessories, and derivatives, not sure what a jewelry derivative is. But if we go in there and start to look around, what pops up, right? Letter necklaces, mixed bracelets, right? This looks like a lot of stuff that we might find on Etsy. So these are things that would be really interesting to me. And it's just a question of defining your niche, using the categories, and then looking at what's working. And if it's working there, is there a reason it wouldn't work on Etsy or Amazon, right? Is it clearly something that's being drop shipped? Well, then we're going to count that out. But if it's something like that pillow or that scent, and that would appeal to our niche, the question then should become, why isn't this being sold on Etsy, or is it? And is there a way for me to create a version of it that would appeal to the traffic that's there? The reason it's selling on TikTok is not because TikTok is voodoo magic, right? It's because the product is there and the people are there. If we can pay attention to that, we can see what those trends are. We can take advantage of them any place that there are people.
Yeah, I'm sure that we'll be doing more on this because this is very interesting, and I could sit here and play for an hour or two and really just do a lot of this research. So definitely check it out. We'll link it up in the description. As far as being an affiliate, we are not an affiliate for that. So just to let you know, we do only talk about products that we're either testing or we're experimenting with. And obviously Chris is experimenting with this one right now. If we have new ones come out, we'll let you know of those too. But I would definitely use it as a research tool, 100%.
I think the thing that's interesting is because TikTok is a lot more open than most other places, there's a bunch of these tools, and you can get a lot of that information directly inside TikTok itself if you have a TikTok shop or you are a creator. It's just not everybody has signed up for that or has gone through the waiting period or has gotten the approval. Sure. And so the fact that you can go grab that information other places is really useful. And if all you're trying to do is figure out what's selling well in your niche outside of somewhere like Etsy or Amazon, it's a great way to be able to do that. You can use them. You can use any of the other tools. They're all pulling from the same API. So it's an interesting little way to be able to find a lot of additional ideas in just a few minutes.